Tired of paying high prices for new construction? Well, today we're gonna level the playing field. Well, hello, this is Wendy Pinnell, and the first thing you need to do if you're buying new construction is research. You need to know what prices builders have already been accepting in any given neighborhood. Like within one community, for example, okay, you may have one sales rep, whose company is very well funded, and they've been directed to hold out and sell only at or above the list price. If that's the case, we're gonna see that on the sales data. Then you might have a few that, they have some flexibility, right? Like maybe they've been selling at like 97% of the list price, like something like that. But what you're looking for, okay, is that one lone builder whose company is financially struggling, and they just need to get as many under contract as they can. Well, by knowing who that builder is and what prices they've been accepting, we can know where to start with negotiations. For example, in Salina, in their Mustang Lakes subdivision, most of the builders there are sticking, pretty close to their list price, but there is one builder who's accepting offers at 84% of list price. Salina is in high demand, so that's very surprising. But do you see how important it is to know that? In Frisco, another example, in their estates at Shattuck Park, you have several builders that are accepting prices in like the 92 to 95% of list price, but you do have one builder who's accepting prices as low as 85% of list price. We've seen this repeated again and again in places like Salina and Frisco to the north, Mesquite and Rockwall to the east, Waxahachie and Mansfield to the south. So what you want to know is what prices have these builders been accepting, how motivated are they, and how far will they come down on price? Now, I should tell you, you are going to need realtor involvement if you want to do this here in Dallas, okay? Texas is a non-disclosure state, meaning you won't be able to see what these builders have paid without access to the MLS. Also, this is going to take a lot of work, okay? We're talking hours and hours of research, and it's a big ask, and I honestly don't know that you're going to find many realtors who will be willing to go through this much effort. And in all fairness, it probably is above and beyond the call of duty. Okay, so for example, I mentioned Salina a minute ago. Okay, within Salina alone, there are 32 new construction communities, and each of those have multiple builders for a total of 111 subsets of builders within a community, each of them with sales data that has to be evaluated. Okay, so this is a lot of work, okay? But it's extremely important information you need to have in getting the best deal. Now, obviously, we at Home in Dallas are gonna provide you with that information, right? So if you're looking to buy and you'd like to work with us, you'll wanna check out our Let's Find Home questionnaire to get the process started. So step number one, research, okay? It's time intensive, but you need to know which builders are motivated in which neighborhood. Tip number two is to create a competitive landscape, okay? Essentially what you want to do is play the builders off each other. This is going to require a little homework on your behalf, okay? You want to study various builders in your target area along with their floor plans and choose some top favorites, okay? Then you want to use the competitive landscape of those multiple builders by being willing to buy from several of them. Okay, now key to this approach is making sure the builders know that you're considering multiple builders, okay? If you're only walking back and forth, between model homes, that's not enough, okay? That's not gonna do it. So our strategy is to actually spend several hours with each builder, negotiating and being willing at any time to walk away from one and go with the other. There's a rivalry there, and you need to take advantage of it. Okay, moving on to tip number three. Builders will be more motivated to make deals on completed homes that have been sitting on the market for a while. Now, this one is going to require research and access to the MLS as well, because you want to look at completed homes that have been on the market for a long time, okay? The minute a builder completes a home, they're already losing money on it, okay? They're having to pay what we call soft costs, right? They're paying for the debt, they're paying for the utilities, electric, water, and so on, okay? So by going in with this awareness, you can potentially negotiate a fabulous deal. Now, keep in mind, as we're working through these tips, okay, that they're not in isolation. Okay, so picture how powerful this step can be if you're already combining it with the other steps. But moving on to tip number four, and this one is just as powerful, keep quarterly sales quotas in mind. Each quarter, or sometimes even month, The sales representatives will be told how many homes need to be sold, like both from the ground up as well as like inventory they need to unload. You know, they're probably given like a bonus if they can meet that goal. So knowing when those quarters or those goals, are going to expire can be a powerful tool in securing a great deal. And a lot of times the builder's going to tell you too. I mean, they'll say things like, we have such and such incentive, that's going to end like March 31st. Okay, well, that's when their quarter ends. Each builder is going to have their own fiscal year, and they may have monthly instead of quarterly incentives. So you can't assume it runs by the calendar. You're actually just going to have to ask, okay? So ideally, you're able to time your shopping close to when a quarter ends, right? We want those sales representatives to be motivated to meet their quota. And again, this can just be a powerful tool. Moving on to step number 5, you want to consider seasonality. Home sales typically slow down in the winter months, which could work in your favor regarding negotiating the price, okay? Dallas is very cyclical and predictable. Our slowest month is always January, and then things slowly begin to wake up in February. Then it's like off to the races in the spring and summer months. We're talking like roughly March through August. Then when fall rolls around and all the kiddos go back to school, the market tends to slow down. It will generally decline from there, but usually it'll kind of end like reasonably strong in December, and then it'll just bottom out in January. So as of right now, we're in the spring, okay? But we're also in a season of 6.5% interest rates, right? And the way that's playing out is we're not seeing like huge increases in prices like we usually might, but prices are going up a little, okay? So generally speaking, if you enter the market in the spring and summer, these tips will not be quite as effective as they will when the market is slowing down like in the fall and the winter. Okay, moving on to tip number 6. Use a knowledgeable third party to negotiate on your behalf. Now, I realize this may seem a little self-serving, but it still is accurate, okay? As an individual walking in the door of a model home, you're simply not going to garner that respect that a realtor will, okay? You'll be told like, well, we've sold dozens of homes and we don't have any reasons to offer incentives, okay? Whereas a realtor can point out that those last dozen homes were sold at 80% of the list price, okay? So you need access to the data to be a powerful negotiator, and only realtors have that data, okay? Now, while I'm still in this, admittedly self-serving mode, you should know working with a realtor generally will not cost you anything, okay? Now, that's not true every time, okay? There are plenty of realtors who will charge you. Things to look out for are there are many who will charge you for a transaction coordinator. Others will have like a specific amount they charge, which they'll try to collect from the builder first, but which ultimately, you will have to pay if the builder doesn't pay enough. Now, our commitment to you here at Home in Dallas is that we will never charge you as a buyer. Moving on to our 7th tip, don't give away your budget. Okay, when we begin the process of interacting with the different sales representatives, you want to tell them your budget is less than it is. Okay, so if you plan on spending, $750,000, let them know your budget is $700,000. Okay, remember, these sales representatives, they want to make the deal. So put the pressure on them to make it happen at $700,000. Okay, kind of know, in the back of your mind, you're probably gonna have to come above that a little bit, but still, you want to put that pressure on for them to work with $700,000. And finally, tip number 8, you absolutely must compare lenders, okay? Once you've agreed on price, you may feel like you can just, breathe a sigh of relief, but you are not done here. Oftentimes the lender and the builder are owned by the same company, all right? So what happens is the builder will tell you they'll pay $5,000 towards your closing costs if you use their lender. Then the lender will charge you extra for the closing costs. Let me give you an example, okay? We recently got one of our buyers under contract, okay? The home was listed for $769,000 and we got them under contract for $580,000. Now, the builder offered $5,000 off of closing costs if they would use the builder's lender. I mean, sounds great, right? Well, when we got the loan estimate, the builder's lender was charging $16,000 in what's known as discount points, okay? They were basically saying, for a 6.5% interest rate, you will have to pay, $16,000 in points. Well, we were able to have our buyer go with our preferred lender and get that $16,000 removed, okay? And this is where the illusion of incentives comes into play, okay? The builder offers you $5,000 towards closing costs and then charges you $16,000 in points as your closing costs. So instead of, saving $5,000, which is what you think you're doing, you're actually paying $11,000 more, okay? So this is a situation where you absolutely must compare lenders and their loan offerings to find the best price on closing costs. Now, it may be that you're flexible with where you buy a home, but you just want to make sure you get the best deal. So where do you even start your search? Well, lucky for you, we've done some of the homework for you, okay? We created a video where we spotlighted the most motivated builders in all of Dallas. You can watch that video right here. And in the meantime, Wendy out.